Hi, everybody. We are live, coming to you again. Today we have Jason with us. Paul is unavailable, and um, we do plan to have the three of us once the season actually starts. I'm just not sure how the logistics are going to work out with Paul's work schedule yet. Paul's going to have to give up some sleep, I think.
Right?
I am not sure how. I mean, Jason and I are pretty much available anytime. So, once we get going, the three of us, it'll be on Paul's time schedule. Okay. I just want to talk about, let's start with the suspensions that happened. Iowa announced 11 suspensions, that the NCAA came up with. Four of them were supposed to be football players, although they're only confirming three, according to Kirk Ferentz's news conference yesterday. We already know about one, Noah Shannon. He is suspended for the entire year, and honestly, according to the rules, he did bet on an Iowa basketball game. That was the women's game. Um, so
The Final Four game.
yeah, the Final Four game. So he should be suspended. Honestly, I think he got a break. Although he'll never play for Iowa again, he got a break and only be suspended for the season because, according to the
Well,
rules handed down, he should be suspended, banned permanently.
well,
Um,
he bet on him to win. Like
hmm
he
yeah,
wasn't he didn't bet against him, which would
right,
be
hmm
bad. Because if he bet against him, that would be then he could tell the players, okay, lose this game and we'll all
right,
make the money. He
right,
bet on them to win.
and he did,
So
and
he
they,
didn't do anything. He didn't do anything illegal. So that's where Kirk's coming from. They're gonna appeal it and they could win the appeal.
yeah,
I'm shocked that it's only a year. I'm really shocked. I mean, I'm shocked that it went all the way to a year
yeah,
just
me too,
because he was the opposite. He didn't bet the under. He didn't bet any way where he had any control because those players had to win,
right,
right?
hmm
They had to win. So it's impossible to bet and get something, okay, you got to win this one, right? To
right,
guarantee that kind of thing. If
right,
he bet on to lose, it'd be a completely different situation. Which
correct,
is that's where I come in is where I think it depends on how you bet, right?
right,
I think like Bruce, he bet the under on a bunch of Iowa games. That's bad because that means he doesn't want to score points,
yeah.
right?
Explain
So that
that
kind of
explains his
thing.
drop passes and yada yada yada.
So that kind of thing to me is a lot bigger of an issue than Noah Shannon betting on the Iowa women to beat South Carolina.
hmm Right,
Um, if he would have bet on them to lose, I'd be on board with all of it
right,
because he could have told the girls to lose on purpose, so that way they can all make some money. But
right.
no, he bet on them to win.
Yeah, he did. And let's just say this. I'm not on board with him being suspended for a full year because, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But I hope he wins his appeal and gets maybe a 6 to 8 game suspension, and so we can have him for the latter half of the season because we're going to really need him in that run toward the end of the season. Season, if we want to, because those are going to be tough games no matter what anybody says. They're still going to be tough. So hopefully we get him back at least for the November run and a bowl game. That's what I'm looking at. The other two, there seems to be confusion whether they're because they say current members of the Hawkeye rosters, and the other two that people have thrown names out there are Jack Johnson, walk-on wide receiver, um, and Aaron Bloom. I don't know how you say it, but it's spelled Blom, but I think you say it Bloom. Anyway, so there's some confusion as whether they're actually still members of the team or if they're still roster members. My my I
There
went
shouldn't
on
be any confusion. Like
well I went
Bond's been gone for a long time, which is why Kirk went out and got a
right,
replacement kicker. There should
right,
be zero confusion about these players being on this team. They're
right.
not there. They've
I
been gone for a long time.
well and here, I went out and I looked at the current roster on the official Hawkeye
You can't
website.
look at a roster. That doesn't tell you anything. You have to go by what you've been seeing over the last 6 months.
Right. Okay. Now they didn't necessarily have to be gone for him to go out and get a kicker because it was always felt that they had criminal charges and other charges that were gonna. Did I lose you again?
No,
Okay, all right. Anyway, they always felt like there was going to be, like they were going to get kicked permanently out of NCAA football. So if these are indeed the two rumored other players that Kirk's not saying right now, then that means that their suspensions are less than um, Noah's, and that's not right. These guys should either be suspended permanently or
who are
suspended
you?
for the year.
Who are you talking about?
If the two players that I'm talking about are Johnson and Bloom.
They're done.
Yeah.
They're
But
done.
but
They're gone.
Kirk said that there was two players yesterday in his news conference that got less suspensions and one shorter than the other than Noah Shannon got, and Noah Shannon, I think everybody Hawkeye fan feels he got the screw job.
Right. But
You know?
no, it's. I mean, I won't believe any of that because I mean, I know what I've been told, and I know. So
Okay.
we'll find out, and you know what my success rate is on stuff that I've been told.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I don't subscribe to any of all that like coach speak stuff, and I mean, we
Okay.
know Blum has been gone. His mom is even going to get in trouble. Like that's something that I mean, Blum's the biggest one out of all of them, with Bruce, because Blum, used his mom's name. Like Blum actually was very crooked in what he was doing compared to Bruce. Bruce used
Right.
his own name. He was just betting, right?
Yeah.
Blum and his mom are both going to get in trouble. Like this isn't this isn't a big deal. Like he's gone. We got a kicker to replace him. We have a sophomore kicker who's really good. So if he just stays healthy, none of this even matters. But yeah, no, Blum's done. Him and his mom are done.
Okay. No, and I kind of thought the same way you did there for a while, but I'm just trying to figure out because those were the two names that were thrown out as current Hawkeye members that were going to get shorter suspensions, and this is by some of our respected news media, which I know that you and Paul are not high on some of the news media guys that I'm high on.
Well, that's because they're always wrong. They prove it over and over that they're wrong. Like you gotta follow the truth. If you're wrong all the time, like there's one specific one that he ended up blocking me on Twitter because he's always wrong. And I mean, when you're always wrong, then what you say doesn't even matter. That's how I don't care if you're a talking head. I don't care if you're a beat writer for Iowa, but what you write, if you're wrong all the time, then you're wrong.
Okay. All right.
So that's what I go off of. So I don't this whole Cade controversy has just been weird to me as well.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. Hold your thoughts on that.
Right.
We'll get to it. Okay, and so all right, so we've kind of like hashed over because we don't really know who the football players are at this point. We really don't, and I probably shouldn't have thrown those names out there because it was just speculation on some people's part, and we don't really want.
I think you got the right names. Like I think those are the two names.
Okay.
We'll find out. Like I haven't heard any other names, so that's something that we don't know for sure.
Right.
But in my mind, the two names are those two names. I don't think there's anybody else involved. So, because I was told that Schulte, who we heard, remember we heard about him a while ago. Well, it turned out that was just a rumor started by the students.
Oh,
like
okay.
they just threw his name in just to have fun, like being, idiot kids.
Yeah.
So I was told he's fine. Like there's, he's not gonna miss any time or whatever. So that it wasn't real what was going on with him, how he hired a lawyer and all that nonsense. That turned out that was just a rumor.
Yeah.
So on that stuff, I think you got the names right. I don't think we're going to hear any more than those names, but we'll see. Obviously, I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
Like
well, there was an unnamed football player too that was supposedly the number 4, but Kirk didn't say anything about a 4th player. And there's rumors out there that unnamed person might be a DB.
I don't think that's real. Like
okay, no, and it's
like the Cade controversy. That's why I don't listen to beat writers, because they have to write about something.
Right.
Well, they just write about anything. They create all this craziness to get people to read their stuff.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm only saying what, because I hear things too from inside, right?
Right.
And you know it, because you know what I tell you what I hear.
Right. And I never
and
repeat
turns
it.
out to be true. Like it's probably 80 to 90% of the time that it's right.
Right.
So,
Right. Correct.
that's why I go off of my sources. I don't listen to beat writers, because they want to. I'm not getting paid to do anything.
No,
Right?
you're
They
not.
get paid to write stuff to get people to read it. Right?
Mm-hmm,
That's what it's about. That's what the Cade thing was. It was just they had to make it a huge deal because they knew Iowa fans would freak out. Right? So, no,
yeah, and I may have helped contributed to that in my last video, but we're gonna talk about that.
Oh yeah.
So let's talk about the 6 wrestlers. I'm not going to name the names that were named because a former wrestler come on there and debunked those names and said that that's not necessarily true. That the person who released those names, is always wrong.
Was he an Iowa beat writer that released those names?
No, he actually belongs to a something called the Wrestling Club website or something, and it does not necessarily. It's an Iowa thing.
Oh,
okay, but
because I saw those names too, and
yeah,
I sent those to you guys.
right,
But it wasn't from it was from somebody who got them off of Twitter.
right.
So those names I didn't know for sure, but those are the names that was going around on Twitter.
And those might still be the names, okay?
Right.
But University of Iowa has not released those names. Some guy at a wrestling club website released them on Twitter.
Well, I mean, as you know, I don't know anything about wrestling. I don't talk to anybody within the wrestling program.
Yeah. However, the six names that were put out there, I think most of them are all Americans and would all are starters. Would have been starters this year. So that kind of decimates the Iowa program because that's more than half of the starting lineup out for this year. And that explains a lot why I think Tom Brands, he just seemed to be going overkill in the transfer portal and recruiting this summer.
Good morning, Casey and Ari.
Yeah.
I just flipped over the comments. I didn't even know we had any comments. I was still in something else.
I hadn't put any up yet because those guys hadn't said anything but morning to each other.
No, they said Dino.
I see Dino. I see Dino. Yeah. Ari calls me Dino. That's kind of my nickname with some of my closer friends. That's why I keep thinking I know this guy in person. But I don't know for a fact.
Right. He said, "Don't believe anything until Casey, you're 100% right.
Yeah, and that's the reason why. But that's the reason why I'm not going to rename the names because the former Hawkeye wrestler that came on and kind of debunked that and kind of basically saying the same thing. Hey, until it's officially out there, we don't know for sure. And I respect him a lot. Nolan and I interviewed him on our podcast a couple of times, a couple of years ago, during the wrestling tournaments, during the Big Ten wrestling tournaments and the nationals. So, I respect him a lot. So I'm going to go with him on this. And he did say though that although we won't be up to Penn State's speed this year, that Brands, he got enough people out of the portal and recruiting this year that he thinks Iowa will be just fine. But he says we're still not to where we can challenge Penn State yet.
So basically number 2 again?
Yeah. I don't know if we're ever going to get to where, it makes me wonder because, the coach at Penn State used to be the coach at Iowa State for a couple of seasons. And it makes me wonder.
Undefeated though as a wrestler at Iowa State?
Yes, he did. Yeah. Which just surprised me why he left Iowa State. I'll never figure that one out because that was all.
Penn State pays more.
Yeah, but it makes me wonder. Do you think? Well, I know you don't know much about wrestling and you don't follow it a lot, but it makes me wonder if Iowa State would be the Penn State if that coach had stayed put at Iowa State.
Well, wasn't Iowa State pretty good when he was there coaching them?
They weren't quite back to where they needed to be. He hadn't gotten everybody he needed. They were solid. They were a solid team. They're
Right.
much like they are right now. They're solid, but they're not quite national championship caliber at that time. Iowa's still beating them. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Darlow knows who I was talking about. You're 100% accurate.
Oh, I knew
And when
who
he
you were.
did,
I knew who you were talking about too.
no, I know you did.
I happen to like the. I happen to like the guy, and I'm
he's always
constantly feeding
wrong.
him. I'm constantly feeding him questions in his mailbag, so I'm a regular on his mailbag
Right.
show every
But he's
Tuesday.
always wrong, and everything he writes is negative about Iowa football because he has a vendetta against parents.
Mm-hmm.
So he is by far. I mean, the double two. What the hell?
I think I know who that is. Oh yeah, we know who that is because
Yeah,
he's
we
using
know
the
who
same
that
name.
is.
Yeah, he's using the same name.
But all right, let's go on with the show.
Okay, let's keep moving. Okay, so that's kind of like I just wanted to kind of hit the suspensions and everything. Kind of get our take on there because I didn't want to be the only podcast out there not talking about it.
No, that's
And
fine.
okay,
Yeah.
and so that's probably about all I have on that. But let's get into the Cade thing about the Let me add my part on how some of that stuff got going when I did the last podcast. Is that Kirk had come out during this right after the spring game, I think, on a follow up that Monday or something, that he thought Cade would be fine. It was a soft bruise injury, and they'll take it day by day or week by week at the time. And I said, well, we heard this last year from Kirk too. At the beginning of the season, there was soft injuries, people, that he kept saying have a chance to play the first game of the season. And some of them we never saw, and some of them we didn't see till later in the year. And so I just wondered if Kirk was throwing some smokescreen up there because he doesn't want our early opponents to know how serious Cade's injury was. So I was just speculating, that could Cade's injury be worse than it really was. And I know that got you some messages and some people criticizing that, wondering to know if it's true because they come to you for insight too. Whether I was on the right case.
The people who do that kind of stuff, I don't give inside info. I just give what I've been saying since the freaking thing happened. It was a soft tissue. He basically had like a cramp. His leg cramped up. Had nothing to do with anything, which is why he just went down and he walked normal once he got up. It was just basically a cramp. He's being held out for precautionary reasons.
Right.
If the game was today, he would play. Yeah. This is what I mean. I've been saying this from the time I got the message. Tell me what was wrong with him, and this was before. I mean, they knew that, like, when he was hurt and he came back out, walking around normally, smiling. Like, if you also look at body language for people who don't get inside information, when you see him out there happy, smiling with the teammates happy, they would have been sad if something bad was happening. Right. He would be limping if something, but he's not limping. He's not doing anything. He's wearing, he's wearing the special thing for his muscles. But the problem is he was gone for a year, right? Right. He didn't get much exercise for a year almost, repairing his knee. So his muscles have to get back, right? They have to get back, get stronger before. And when he just took off on that run that he got hurt on, his leg was like, oh, shoot. Like he wasn't quite ready for that.
Yeah, so no, that makes sense too.
Stronger. He's relaxing. He's going to be fine for game day. My guess is what I was told, that starting next week, he will start to actually practice.
Yeah, he's going to have to. I mean, Kirk's rule has always been that you got to give 100% in practice game week if you want to play game week. He's never, had, but
but I'm going to go out on a limb and say this situation's different.
Yeah, I think so too.
With Cade, I mean, Cade is a special player, especially in Iowa's offense.
Yeah, we could probably win the game with Hill quarterbacking this first game.
No, I mean, you're right. They can win the game running the ball on every down.
Yeah,
Utah State, their roster's in shambles. They don't have an offensive coordinator. I mean, they could probably win the game without the offense even being on the field.
Yeah. So, South Bend, can we do one thing on this? Petrus is in the past. Can we leave him there and look forward to our new QB one? You know?
But yeah, I think Cade. I'm hoping he's a gamer. And they also, one of the beat writers questioned Cade's toughness, and Kirk said that's not a problem. Like right away, he's like, that's not an issue. That's not an issue. So I mean, I think coaches are probably keeping him out just for precautions until this week. So
Yeah, no.
starting, I see him practicing Monday. If he
Yeah.
doesn't practice next week, then I'll be like, then I'm going to go back to my contacts and be like, what's going on now?
Yeah.
Like, why is he not practicing?
Right.
So,
right. Yeah,
but everything that I've been told has been coming out so far,
Okay.
right? Everything I've told you has been coming out so
Right.
far.
Okay, I just want to say this though too. Normally, because having gone through this knee surgery myself, normally it takes a full year to get fully healed and stuff. And of course, he's going to be going out, and it's almost a full year by the time the first game starts. I believe he threw out his knee in the second or third game last year.
Yeah,
maybe it was the third. Yeah,
it was the second game.
Yeah,
I believe it was the second game.
So he's coming up on close to a year. He's coming up close to a year. So hopefully, but you're right. His body, he's probably not been pushing his body that hard, and because I know I'm not pushing mine that hard.
You're an old man, though.
I know it, but I'm coming up on my 6-month anniversary for knee surgery, and I'm still not where I used to be.
But he, no, I think he'll be fine. I just think they're holding him out, letting him get he needs to get strength back in his legs. He needs to be, he's going to be doing both. You're going to see a lot more of the Nebraska game plan than anything. He'll be in shotgun a lot with empty. So I'm just hoping they run the ball more out of shotgun this year. That's the one thing I wish they would have done last year. So he'll be doing both, South Bend.
Yeah.
I'm expecting more shotgun this year, like in the Nate Stanley years, but he'll be doing both.
All right. Well, it's good news to hear that Cooper is back at practice, because I was beginning to wonder if he was going to come back. We really need him because we don't have him on the field this year. We're going to be hurting dogs.
Yeah, I know. He's fine.
Yeah.
That was just for precaution. They keep out a lot of kids for the practice just to get them healthy.
Okay, yeah. However, Nico and Joey Labus both are not back to practice yet. He hopes to get them at the end of the week. So I'm assuming they're also, if it was game day, they would be ready to go.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know about the boss, but I do know Nico would be playing. Nico will be back this week. No, I don't. Never. Never make me.
Oh, okay.
But that'll never happen. You know how hard it is for me to talk about how much better Cade is than Stanley as far as accuracy and brain, like as far as a quarterback brain. He's probably not as smart as Stanley. Stanley broke the record for the Wonderlic test in the NFL. Fun fact.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to look forward, guys. I just trying to look forward. We can have we can do it. We can
playing, but I'm always going to bring up Stanley. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, but we can always do a show on past Iowa quarterbacks and where they rank in our hearts. I mean, outside of Chuck Long, C.J. Beathard is one of the ones that's got my heart on there. I always loved his toughness and his grit. Chuck
Long is the one I have to argue with the most.
Yeah.
Because he threw 46 interceptions. That's just, I can't do that. Stanley only threw 23. So he doubled up Stanley in interceptions.
There we go. So we got in there and Got it in anyway. Okay.
We did.
All right. Okay.
But Cade will be back next week.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping Nico too because he is our number one wide receiver right now, and we need him.
Nico should be back. Oh, and yeah, Nico Brown, who we all love, right? Caleb Brown is a special talent. Like he can't get above the 4 spot right now. So the 4th wide receiver. So like he's got all the talent, but he might be struggling a little bit. Yeah, Drew Tate was, and actually Cade is the most accurate quarterback since Drew Tate. Drew Tate's probably the most accurate QB Iowa has had since Chuck Long.
Yeah.
Chuck Long was extremely accurate. He just couldn't read a defense.
Yeah. Poor Drew Tate. He was the quarterback of a team during an era when we couldn't get a decent running back going, Yeah. And so he had to run out of the pocket a lot and throw the ball a lot more, especially his first year.
He was he was the quarterback through those years where all the running backs would get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
That 2004 team would have been amazing if Jermell Lewis didn't get hurt.
Right.
God, that team would have been fire.
Was that Drew Tate's first year at quarterback? That the year yeah, it seemed like he was throwing on almost every single down. He was running out of the pocket and throwing on every.
But they didn't. They really didn't. They kept running the football as well.
Yeah, they did to keep him honest, but the running backs didn't get much. It was.
Drew Tate didn't even throw the ball. Well, I'm going to say it as much as Nate Stanley did it at any year. Drew Tate threw the ball, I think, 330 times at the most, where really? Nate was thrown 390 times. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. But that's just a difference in OCs, though, too. If Brian was the OC of Drew Tate, they probably would have threw the ball on every down. Brian wants to throw the football.
Yeah. Drew Tate was under Ken O'Keefe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. What's next?
Okay. Well, let's just do this. This other part is kind of non-basketball, so I'm just gonna leave that off for now. I had mentioned to you about name me some areas. Think about some areas where you think Iowa will definitely be improved. And I think it's kind of obvious where we're thinking, but I want to hear it from you.
Well, obviously, the biggest improvement is the quarterback position. Mm-hmm. If it had Cade been the quarterback last year, they win 10 games pretty easily. So, but Cade has to stay healthy. That's the key. The key is for Cade to stay healthy. He just has to, and he'll get stronger as the year goes. Mm-hmm. I just hope it doesn't turn into a CJ Beathard situation where he just couldn't get healed until the season was over.
Right.
Remember?
Oh, I'm still angry that in the bowl game we basically gave up the bowl game because CJ was playing hurt the entire game and they refused to put in another quarterback and try to win the game.
No, they didn't refuse to. They gave CJ the opportunity. Like CJ did not want to come out.
I know he didn't.
That tells you how tough the dude was. He was getting his butt kicked and he did not want to come out because it was his last game.
Right.
But in 2015, they went through that with CJ because he pulled a groin or something, remember?
Right.
Against Iowa State. And then after that, his mobility went down. And every week they had to, nurture his hammy or something. I can't remember what it was, but it was in his legs. So the whole year he had it. Well, wide receivers isn't going to be a huge improvement. They've been good. What will be the tight ends will be the same as last year. They replaced Laporta with another good one. The wide receivers will actually be better because talent-wise, but the receivers have been good for a while now. They've been getting, and even in Nate Stanley years, those receivers were wide open. Mm-hmm. I think it's Brian's playbook. I think it's the X's and O's because last year the walk-on, Alex Wick was wide open so many times. And there's that one play I shared where literally he ran the end route, nobody around him, and Petras threw it at his feet. And Petras had a clean pocket. So, some people don't understand what a wide open receiver is. So, people don't understand you throw to a certain spot where the defender can't get to the ball. Mm-hmm. So, if a receiver has a 2-yard radius around him with empty air, then he's open, like wide open. And if the corner is behind him, it's like basketball. The corner is behind him, and you throw it out, in front of the receiver, he's wide open. Defender cannot get there. So it's if you're pick six Stanzi, which he learned his senior year, but remember his junior year, Stanzi would throw the ball and it'd be pick six all day. That's because Stanzi did not understand where to throw the ball in those situations. But yeah, like Stanzi had to learn how to throw those balls. That's why Stanzi threw so many pick sixes in 2008. Then in 2009, he had it figured out.
Okay. All right. So
that's mine. Mine's the quarterback.
Okay.
By far.
Yeah. I think hands down, I think the O-line will be much better this year too. It can't be anything but better. We can't have another year like we had the last 2 years. We just can't, or Cade's not going to be able to do his thing. He's going to be running for his life, much like.
And that's just where I disagree. I don't feel like Petras was running for his life. We showed on tape how good the O-line was. So that's where I disagree. I don't think the O-line played bad. They were going against 8-man fronts.
Yeah.
And their running back still had averaged 5 yards a carry.
Right.
The Nebraska game was a perfect example. The O-line dominated that game. Wide open receivers, and they still lost. So, but you're right. They should be improved. I expect the same starting offensive line as last year, except Hunter Deckers at right tackle. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, that was Jack Plum's spot last year, right? At right tackle.
Yep. And the only thing that needs to, obviously they can improve because they can get to where they can just dominate, which is what they might be able to do now that they have a quarterback completing passes. The quarterback is a huge deal for the offensive line. The quarterback calls out protections. Remember I showed you in the Nebraska game where Jack Plum got made fun of because he turned in and just let the outside linebacker run around and sack Padilla.
Right.
Well, that was on Padilla to change the protection. It was slide protection. All the linemen slid left, but he didn't. That's where another spot where Cade will help the O-line. Call out the protections. Call out who's coming. Let them know. And then there was one play, remember, where the Nebraska sent 6, and we were in empty, so we only had 5 blockers. Well, the quarterback has to know we can't block that guy. I have to do something right away. We have 5 blockers blocking 5, but that 6th guy we can't block. That is on the quarterback. That is not on the offensive line. The offensive line took 5. They're 5. But this outside guy, they had nobody. Padilla on that one needed to know. I think that was actually one that where he fumbled. Padilla needed to know that guy was coming unblocked. That's on the quarterback. That is not on the O-line.
Right. But also, too, they also said some of that is that when they running backs had to do the pass protection block, they also weren't doing their job.
Yes, they struggled at blocking as well. Right. No, but there was no running backs in the plays I just called.
Okay. All right. Okay.
They're an empty. There's no running backs. The empty means there's nobody in the backfield.
Right. Okay.
You have 5 blockers. They have 5 offensive linemen, and then you have 5 receivers. Nobody back there with Padilla.
Yeah, I did find it kind of funny last year that we had some decent wide receivers out there, especially later in the year once they started coming back, and he had a hard time hitting those receivers. But when he chose Laporta as his target, it just seemed like the balls were thrown perfectly to Laporta most of the time. It's like, did he not trust his wide receivers, or?
I don't think he threw the ball great to Laporta all the time, but No, he didn't. I mean, he didn't trust Bruce. I felt bad because um, I did a lot of videos on him reading a defense, if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
And he would not throw to Bruce. But I think Petrus, to his credit, knew something was up with Bruce. Bruce was wide open all year,
Right.
and he tried throwing to Bruce in the first few games. You know,
And
he
Bruce,
hit Bruce on that nice pass against Iowa State, and then Bruce fell down at the 2-yard line. Remember?
right.
So, like, I mean, he had his moments. I mean, don't get me wrong, he had his moments where he completed passes.
Yeah.
But I think towards the Rutgers game, I'm thinking Petrus started to know that there's something up with Bruce.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
he heard something. He's on the team, and you know, kids talk. There was probably rumors going around, but like there was that play that I just harped on against Rutgers, and I felt bad after that.
Mhm.
After hearing about Bruce, where Bruce was wide open for a touchdown, and he threw it to Laporta double covered, and it made no sense. But like I said, maybe he just didn't trust Bruce. Now he should have trusted Vines and Regini. I mean, Regini didn't drop anything last year. He caught 34 balls or something,
Mm-hmm.
and he missed like the first couple games.
Right. So
And he was open all the time. He could have had 10, 15 catches against Nebraska, but we didn't have a quarterback that can get him the ball.
yeah.
We showed that on tape. Nobody
Right.
can argue when there was times where Regini was open by 10-yard radius.
Mhm.
Nobody around him.
Well, I think the wide receiver plays improved only because we have a quarterback that can get them the ball this year. He's not going to throw it at their feet or way over their head, as was mentioned earlier here.
That's going to be huge, and I think that will show a lot of the fans exactly what these receivers and how good they really are, right? Because I think Regini has a career year. He led the team in catches as a freshman when he had a quarterback, right? Now he's older, he's got a quarterback again. I think he goes out in a blaze of glory. I think he has a great year. I think Vines has a great year. He was hurt half the year last year, but he was wide open against Nebraska too. Yeah, and Caleb Brown, that's why I hope they run the ball out of shotgun a lot. I don't know if they will. That's not, that's not Kirk Ferentz's style. I think Brian would, because they do it every once in a while and it works great. Spread them out and run Caleb. I got him at 1,500 yards this year.
Oh, you got him. You got Caleb Brown mixed up with Caleb Johnson.
Oh, Johnson. My bad.
Yeah, he's talking about Caleb Brown.
Yeah, I went to running backs. I forgot. I just mentioned Caleb Brown too. No, you're right. But Caleb Brown does skill-wise, but he's got to be able to get on the field. Like he's got to learn too. I don't know what it is, but so far he can't get above the 4 spot as far as the receivers.
Well, that will get him on the field, though. I mean, 4 or 5 spot will get him on the field.
Well, right. He'll come out. No question he's going to play. Mm-hmm. He's not going to be a starter or nothing. But gosh, I can't believe I thought that said Caleb Johnson. I'm fired up about Caleb Johnson too.
Yeah. I think he's going to have closer to 2,000 yards this year. I really do.
He's got to get the carries for that, but I think he averages close to 6 yards a carry. I think
he averaged 7 yards a carry last year.
What?
This is an amazing stat. He averaged 7 yards a carry last year. The rest of the team, like 2 yards.
He averaged 5.2 yards a carry.
Where did I see 7? I saw 7.
And somewhere. The rest of the team all averaged over 4 yards. They did not average.
Are you taking Petrus' sacks out of there because those have to count in the yardage?
No, they don't have to count.
Those
are pass calling plays.
Okay.
Yes, college football, NFL don't do that, but college counts sacks. But you have to take the sacks out to get your true yards per carry. Because sacks are actually called pass plays.
Heck yeah, Casey. Megastar, if KF will allow that. Remember DJK before the drug house? KF hated that he was an electric player. I think he just hated the fact that, DJK was very outspoken and
no, but that's false. The problem that Kirk didn't like is that he kept getting in trouble. DJK was a kid who was always in trouble, like in classroom and like all kinds of things. DJK was he was in trouble a lot on campus. That's what Kirk didn't like about him is the fact, and he was a mouthy kid. Like he would talk back to coaches. Some coaches just don't like players like that. So,
well, if Caleb Johnson's going to be a sleeper for the Heisman, that means he's going to have closer to 2,000 yards, my guess, than the 1,500 yards on.
it would be no. I mean, if that could be possible, but that would just mean he'd have to get the carries.
Yeah.
Like I'm just going off of like Brian likes to throw the ball. Now, if Cade's not playing, he will get the carries.
Yeah.
No, yeah. You're probably right, South Bend. But I take those out. When I do yards per carry, I take all that out because those are called pass plays. Why college football puts that in as sacks as in rushing yards is beyond me. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
The NFL doesn't do that.
Did DJK never got a shot at the NFL, right? Because KF
No, he got busted.
Yeah, because of the drug bust at the end of the year.
DJK was a talent, but you can't
was a talent.
But you can't let him be a prick either.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't just let a kid who run all over you as a coach, or you're not going to be a Division I coach or a high school coach.
Correct.
You know how many high school coaches do that just because of a kid has so much talent? They let him act like a punk? No. Mm-hmm. You can't have all the talent in the world and act like a punk and expect to be he literally had all the records, I think. He was There was a joke about the leading scorer in Iowa history was a drug kingpin or something in Roy Marble. And then the leading receiver in Iowa history, which was DJK, was the number one receiver in catches. And maybe it was only catches, but he was up there in receiving yards. And that's with always being in trouble. I mean, he couldn't get any more opportunities. KF gave him all the opportunities. Mm-hmm. If he wasn't the talent that he was, he would have been kicked off the team. That's just the fact. And he ended up being the all-time leading receiver for Iowa. I disagree. It's not about feelings at all. It's not about KS feelings. You're right. But it's about being a role model, a leader. It's about, most coaches are like second parents, right? When a kid goes to school to be with the football coach, a lot of parents believe they trust that coach. It's about it's not about Kirk's feelings. You don't just let kids be a bunch of punks and then let them do whatever they want. That's not how I raise my kids. There's discipline. You get discipline, and KF, he did it the right way with DJK, in my opinion. He still ended up being the all-time leading receiver. So,
yeah. Similar story with Smith Marset. Is that how I'm almost forgotten the guy now. It didn't seem like he was getting enough targets during his last season, and it just seemed like maybe he was quiet in the doghouse too a little bit.
No, he started as a freshman, if you remember. He played a lot as a freshman. Who was this quarterback his senior year?
His senior year would have been not Petrus.
Yes.
It was Petrus?
Yes.
Okay, I forgot. Okay, was that the 2020 year?
Yeah.
Okay. His last year before he became a Viking, and now I don't know where he's at because I don't think he's a Viking anymore.
No, he's not. He's a Chief.
He's a Chief. Okay, cool.
He just had 3 catches, 96 yards, and a touchdown against their last opponent.
I don't even understand why Minnesota got rid of him because he came up big for Minnesota a few times. No wonder the Vikings don't win.
Because of his attitude. It's another thing with South Bend here. The Minnesota got rid of him because he was going around telling some rookie receiver he was going to sleep with his girlfriend. Like he just kept he kept bullying this kid, this rookie receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that ISM has, mental issues as well, where he thinks he's God. And then he just did you see him flip it? So you must not have saw the flip. He did that flip into the end zone.
Oh yeah. It was against Wisconsin, right?
No. He did it as a Chief. He just
he did the flip, and he did the. Okay, I did not see because I don't watch much preseason football, but he did that flip against, I think, Wisconsin in a snowstorm and hurt himself.
And then he just did it again with the Chiefs.
Oh, yeah, he shouldn't do that.
And then he got called out.
Act like you've been there before, which he has.
He got called out on Twitter, and he just told Twitter that, hey, I'm just having fun. Mm-hmm. But you would think he'd be trying to make the team.
Right. Don't do anything preseason to get yourself sent either on the scout team or the practice squad, whatever they call it.
His head is just bigger than his contract. I don't understand him. But, he's got so many opportunities because of his skill set.
Okay.
But, yeah, he was literally a bully in a locker room to one of the other receivers. And Minnesota said, you're gone. I don't know. I can't remember if they released him or traded him. But they just let him go because he was a cancer in the locker room. So
and I believe it.
And DJK, same thing. He was a cancer in the locker room. Mm-hmm. But then you got people like South Bend here who think he should still play every down because of his talent.
Yeah, you can never be bigger than the team.
Right.
You're a team member. You're part of it. You're part of 11 on offense out there. You're doing your part to help win.
Right.
Some days you're going to have a better help. You're going to have better days than you are least days. But anyway, I just want to make, before we move on, another thing I'm going to hit. The practice year, Dino. Come on. I still say 2020 counted. I know people disagree with me, including Jason.
Yes. Thank you for putting. I was hoping you wouldn't put me in your camp. You're right. Because I've watched those games and it looked like a practice. No fans. Some teams didn't even have the year that they played Wisconsin. Wisconsin couldn't even field a defense.
Wisconsin was pretty much decimated with people.
That's why Wisconsin's record was what it was.
Yeah. You notice by the bowl game when Wisconsin got all their people back, they dominated like the Wisconsin team would normally.
I don't remember the end of Wisconsin this season. I just remember because I watched the games of Iowa. Mm-hmm. Illinois could barely field a team. Wisconsin could barely field a defense.
Michigan could field a team that year either.
Yeah, so that's why I don't count it. As far as, the stats count, the wins count, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But I don't count, as far as anybody who had a great year. That Iowa State won the Fiesta Bowl. That's all you need to know about that year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And that gave them 9 wins, and they've never had 9 wins.
Yes, before. And they haven't come close since.
They've had losing seasons since then. The last 2 seasons,
they have not had a win. They were 7-6 in 2021 with all those super seniors.
Oh, okay. I thought, but they had a losing season last year. They only won one Big 12 game or something last year.
Yeah, I don't remember. It wasn't good. That's all I know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe we brought that up. South Bend. Okay, we got some things that we felt they improved. What do you think is, not be improved? It might take a step back from last year.
Linebackers. That's my the spot that I think will take a step back, or possibly because we don't know about Nick. The other linebackers, but I think the injuries is going to be huge for linebackers, DBs, and quarterback on the whole team. So, but I think as long as everybody stays healthy, the linebackers will still be. I don't know how you can compare to last year's linebackers anyway, right?
I know it. Right.
Last year was just an unbelievable linebacker core. So I think linebackers will be an issue. And if we get an injury to a DB, period, injury to the quarterback, then let's just pretend Cooper goes down again and then Cade, the season could go. I mean, it's going to be because they don't have depth at DB, and they sure in heck don't have depth at QB unless Joey gets healthy. Hill is still learning the playbook. So if Hill comes out, it's going to be a playbook similar to last year as far as they won't take any chances on offense, right? It's going to be one of those where they're going to run the ball in the 8-man fronts because they won't trust Hill not to make a mistake.
Right.
So
they will. Yeah, my prediction is if something happens to Cade after the season starts, by that time Labus is back and fully healthy. Labus will be the number 2 quarterback coming in.
Yeah,
he's got the experience.
Yeah, he's number 2 right now if healthy.
Right.
Hill is still working on the playbook. Like Hill's playbook knowledge will be shrunk, right? To all the ignorants out there who think Brian has a small playbook and plays Tecmo Bowl, well, you'll get your wish because Hill literally will be like Tecmo Bowl. So
I haven't played Tecmo Bowl for years. I forgot all about that. That was so fun.
It was. That was my stuff when I was young. You were an old man playing Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah. Well, I was probably in my 40s.
Yeah.
But I also had a lot of youth group. I was in charge of youth group at one of my churches. And so a lot of them would hang out at my house, and we'd play the Nintendos and the Tecmo Bowls, and
heck yeah.
We'd have fun doing that, taking turns, and I could never beat those guys.
I would have done the same thing.
I could beat the computer, but I could never beat those guys.
Dang kids, anyway.
Yeah, I know it. Well, shoot, my grandson, who's 21 now, when he was 5 or 6 years old, he was kicking my butt in video games. And he was just reckless. I was trying to do the right thing, and he was just reckless, and he just killed me.
Yeah, that happens. So yeah, I just think for this year's Iowa team, more than God ever, I think injuries are going to be a big deal as far as certain positions. The DB, they don't have much depth. QB, we don't have any depth if Joey's hurt. So, hey, my dream, I've dreamed Marco leading Iowa to a national championship. Maybe we come down to Marco playing with his Tecmo Bowl playbook and doing something.
Oh, that didn't happen. Not in front of the youth group guys that I was, I had to be, what do you call it? Set the example.
Yeah, he just had smoke coming out of his ears. He couldn't show anything, but he had smoke coming out of his ears.
Yeah. Well, now I play Madden by myself at home when I get crazy. But right now I got I think I'm 2 years behind on the current Madden, but I'm always playing Kittle. I take the 49ers and I always take Kittle, and Kittle gets all the throws. I don't throw to anybody else but Kittle.
So your
Kittle leads the league in touchdowns, yards, catches, everything.
So your Peach is throwing to Laporta. I don't care what this play call is; it's going to Laporta.
Oh, I make you can see which plays are set up for the tight end when I go through. I can scroll through and see which plays are set up for him, and I make sure I get those plays.
What's next on the agenda?
The only other thing I just wanted to talk about the 2025 commitment we got from a 5-star Journey Houston for the women's basketball team. She's a 5'11" guard, so it sounds like she's everything that our current star of the team, Caitlin Clark, is. So we won't miss a beat by the time she comes, because if Caitlin Clark comes back for another year after this year, we're just going to go from one to the other.
Right. And I mean, she's talked about coming back. However, it might depend on, where Connor is and stuff too. I mean,
that will definitely have a lot to do with it. But her goal is to get to the WNBA.
No, I know. But she'll probably be the number 1 pick. So if the WNBA team with the number 1 pick is close to where Connor's coaching or whatever, then
don't let her get drafted by the Indiana team. That would really throw her toward Connor. But I mean,
So,
right before Caitlin took over, we had, I can't think of her name now. She's setting all the records before Caitlin did. She was our point guard, and she got drafted by Indiana and got cut before they even played their first game. And I think, how can you do that?
well, I don't. WNBA it's all political. They need to start a new WNBA where they take the best players. They're not doing that they just because they have small rosters, so they can't keep many players. I believe they can only have 12. So in every year they keep these older players
Right.
like Diana Taurasi, who was a great player for 10, 15 years. Heck, is she in her 20th year now? Like
Yeah.
it's ridiculous that she's still playing over. I can't remember. I went through this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I went through a whole WNBA phase not too long ago because I was bored and just kind of searched. I couldn't figure out, like Monica Sonano, how she got cut and just stuff like that.
I mean, she only played one preseason game for me, and she had a heck of a game, and she got cut the next day.
Yeah, the same thing happened to, oh, goodness. The other
Catherine,
one from
yeah, Catherine
the big
something.
No, the big girl. Yeah,
Oh,
Catherine as well, but she's still playing.
Yeah.
But the big girl.
Yeah, Gustafson. They're both playing overseas, I thought.
Gustafson is playing now. She got signed to a team again.
Oh,
but
did
it
she?
took
Good.
her forever. She had to keep, going overseas. It took forever. She kept getting cut. It's like she'd have a great preseason game. You're like, holy cow, she's dominating, and then boop.
Yeah.
So I think the WNBA is all political. I think
well, number one, they don't have big enough rosters. Number two, they don't have enough teams.
They have big enough if they just continue if they pick their best players, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Their roster size, though, it is affecting how many people can be on a team, obviously, in the league. Mm-hmm. However, they can't afford a bigger roster. They're trying to ask for more money now, and they can barely afford. They lose money every year. The NBA.
Every one of those WNBA teams is sponsored or owned by an NBA team. They've got money galore to help those girls out.
Yeah, but you don't become rich losing money. Like you wouldn't. Paying those girls more would only make you lose more money. The NBA has to pay. They don't have to, but they do. They pay the WNBA to keep them alive. Every single year, the WNBA loses money. Every year.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's because, have you ever turned on a game on TV and see how few people are in the stands?
Yeah. They average like 7,000.
That's the reason why they need to put a team in Des Moines when they expand. But Des Moines is not under consideration for expansion. How can they ignore the numbers? I
mean, just imagine Des Moines getting a WNBA team, and then the number one pick, in the draft, in their first year, and they get Caitlin Clark. Imagine that. Holy cow, what that would do for Des Moines, what that would do for the WNBA.
Right.
They would literally sell out that. And then if they brought on the girl you just said, I can't remember.
Catherine or Gustafson? Both of them. Yeah, they both were like 1-2. They both got drafted 1 year right after the other.
Yeah, I mean, they're both very good, but just bring Gustafson in, then you got Clark and Gustafson, and then just fill out your roster or whatever. Imagine what that would do for the WNBA and the city of Des Moines.
Right.
They would sell out the first WNBA game. Like it's.
Well, I got a question. The Minnesota Wolves had a team in Des Moines for G League, and with both Luka playing and Jordan Bohannon on that team. How did they sell out a lot of games, or
they sold a lot of tickets, which became the reason why everybody was saying Luka kept coming down. Like people were saying, because Luka he would play 15 minutes and score 13 points in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
He would have great games, another one, but then they would send him back to Des Moines
to get for ticket sales.
That became the rumor. Whether it was true, I mean, I don't know.
Well, the
But
sad thing is he was good enough to make the playoff squad, and they didn't put him on the playoff squad. That pissed me off.
I mean, they've been doing that to a lot of these, a lot of Iowa players and other teams. It just seems that's why I think it's all political. I really believe the WNBA. I mean, they've already had a coach fired for being an idiot. Like she yelled at all the fans who didn't show up. Right? They hardly had. They maybe had 7,000. I guess is the average fans there for the first Brittany Griner game, and she came out and yelled at them, "You can't show up for Brittany," and blah blah blah. Well, it turns out she was doing something else too, and then they ended up firing her. So, I mean, I just think the WNBA, for just like the women's soccer team, it's just all political and it's ruining it. I think they need to stop with the being political about crap and just play basketball or soccer, and the fans will love you, right? So I really believe the WNBA would have a shot at being good again because they were really good in the late 90s and early 2000s. Some of those Houston teams were so fun to watch, but no one could beat them. So I guess, but they were so fun to watch together. If they would, I think they're just being political on stupid crap and not basketball. I'm wondering if it's not about your personal beliefs is why they cut you. So many players in the WNBA get cut, and you're like, and it makes you scratch your head because you watch the player who they are playing, and that player doesn't even come close to the one that they cut.
Right.
But so I think it. I mean, I think it comes down to their political beliefs. I think it's what they say in the locker room. I honestly do, and I think they're ruining women's sports because I do not see men's sports doing any of that. I look for it. I want to see that. Now the NBA does with LeBron doing stupid stuff sometimes, and they brought 2020. They did the political thing, but it went away. So I mean, I don't know. I just think Iowa players are in the struggle in the WNBA, and I think it comes down to something political.
Right.
Because it doesn't make any sense.
Okay. I guess on that note, we should probably leave because we've already lost a couple of listeners on that WNBA talk that left while we were talking about the WNBA.
Well, I mean, that's fine. We were talking about Iowa players.
Yeah, we were.
But you get me going on some topic, and I'll just talk forever.
That was my hope. I wasn't sure that we had enough material to go an hour. We went an hour. I knew if I just shut up and let you talk, it'd be fine.
I think you could probably just have me sell a candy bar and right? I mean, it was fun to watch in the late 90s, early 2000s. But I think you could just say, "Hey, come on here and sell this Butterfinger," and I could probably talk for an hour for you on the Butterfinger.
Yeah. I knew it. Yeah, I knew it'd be fine. But on that note, we should probably get out of here. And it's been over an hour, and Mother Nature's calling me, and I need to take care of business.
Okay. Bye, Dean. Bye, Terry. Bye, Paul.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching, everybody.